Dying millionaire CEO, shock everyone by taking 5 homeless boys under his wing. Welcome to Love Scene Diaries, where we bring you stories that touch your heart and stay with you long after they end. Today's story might just change how you think about love, legacy, and what truly matters in life. The diagnosis hit Alexander Westbrook like a physical blow. 3 months, maybe 4, with aggressive treatment, Dr. Harrington said, his voice fading into the background as the room began to spin. Alex gripped the edge of his mahogany desk, knuckles white against the polished wood. The Manhattan skyline blurred through floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, a view that had cost millions but now seemed utterly meaningless. "Mr. Westbrook, should I call someone?" He waved the doctor away, struggling to maintain the composure that had built his tech empire. "Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The words echoed in his mind as the door closed, leaving him alone with his death sentence. At 42, Alexander Westbrook had everything money could buy and nothing that truly mattered. No family, no heir, no legacy beyond cold corporate acquisitions and stock portfolios. The first coughing fit took him by surprise. He doubled over, pain searing through his abdomen as he collapsed onto the Italian marble floor. His phone skittered away, screen lighting up with notifications from people who wanted something from him, always wanting, never knowing. 3 months to live. The rain came suddenly, a torrential downpour that sent Manhattan pedestrians scurrying for cover. Alex's driver navigated through the glistening streets, wipers fighting a losing battle against the deluge. "Take the side street," Alex instructed, needing to avoid the traffic on Fifth Avenue. His latest treatment had left him exhausted, nauseous, and irritable. That's when he saw them. 5 boys huddled beneath a crumbling awning in an alley. The oldest, maybe 16, stood protectively in front of the others. A pair of identical twins clutched each other's hands. A small boy with haunted eyes held a sketchbook above his head, desperately trying to keep it dry. The youngest couldn't have been more than 5, his 2 large sneakers soaked through. "Stop the car," Alex commanded. "Sir, we're already late for your..." "Stop the car." Something about those boys struck him with the force of revelation. Their faces, determined despite their circumstances, reflected something he recognized from long ago. From before the money, before Westbrook Technologies, before he buried his past beneath success and solitude. He saw himself. What would you do if you had only 3 months to live? Would you travel the world, spend every penny, make amends? Or would you do something completely unexpected, something that might leave a mark on the world after you're gone? For Alexander Westbrook, billionaire CEO with no attachments and a terminal diagnosis, the answer came in the form of 5 homeless boys who had nothing but each other. Boys who needed someone as desperately as he needed a reason for his final days to matter. What he couldn't possibly know was that his impulsive decision would lead him not just to purpose, but to a love he never believed possible, with a woman determined to hate everything he represented. Have you ever wondered what you do with your final days? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and join us on this journey of unexpected love and second chances, where time may be limited, but the heart's capacity for love is boundless. The Westbrook Tower dominated the Manhattan skyline, 68 stories of glass and steel that reflected the city's ambition. On the top floor, Alexander Westbrook's penthouse office offered a view that made visitors feel like gods overlooking their domain. "The Singapore deal is finalized. We've acquired their AI division at 30% below market value," reported Vanessa Chen, Alex's chief operating officer. Alex barely nodded, his attention fixed on the rain-streaked window. 3 days had passed since he'd seen those boys in the alley, 3 days of their faces haunting him. "Alex, did you hear what I said? This is the acquisition you've been pursuing for 2 years. Schedule a board meeting for tomorrow morning," he said, turning to face her. "And contact my lawyers. I need adoption paperwork drawn up immediately." Vanessa's professional composure cracked. "Adoption? For what?" "Not what. Who?" "5 boys. I'm taking them in." The silence that followed was deafening. Alex's penthouse apartment occupied the entire 67th floor, 9,000 square feet of minimalist luxury that architectural magazines had featured as the ultimate bachelor sanctuary. Tonight, it felt like a mausoleum. He moved through the space, past the untouched grand piano, beyond the living room where no one had ever truly lived, into his bedroom with its California king bed where he slept alone. The medicine cabinet revealed his new reality. Orange prescription bottles lined up like soldiers. Pain management. Anti-nausea. Experimental treatments that might buy him weeks, not months. Alex caught his reflection in the mirror. Still handsome, still commanding, but with a hollowness in his eyes that money couldn't fill. He opened the hidden safe behind his closet's false wall and removed a worn shoebox. Inside lay the only remnants of his life before wealth. A faded baseball card, a small action figure missing one arm, and a photograph of 5 boys outside a group home in Queens. In the photo, 10-year-old Alex stood with his arm around a smaller boy. 3 others crowded close, their smiles defiant despite everything. "We were going to conquer the world together," he whispered to the ghosts of his past. But life had other plans. The foster system separated them. 2 died young, 1 to drugs, 1 to violence. Another disappeared into the prison system. Only Alex escaped, clawing his way through scholarships and startup culture, building walls around himself with each success. Now, with death circling, those walls felt like a prison. "Have you lost your mind?" Gerald Hoffman, Westbrook Technology's longest-serving board member, slammed his fist on the conference table. "You want to adopt 5 street kids? The press will think you've had a breakdown." Around the table, 8 executives exchanged concerned glances. The company's stock would plummet if word got out about their CEO's terminal diagnosis. This adoption scheme would only accelerate the damage. "My personal decisions aren't up for board approval," Alex stated coldly. "They are when they affect shareholder value," countered Vanessa. "Alex, I'm saying this as your friend. You need to think about your legacy here. The company will survive without me," he interrupted. "I've made my decision." "At least tell us why," pleaded the CFO. "Why these random kids?" Alex stood, buttoning his bespoke suit jacket. "Because 30 years ago I was them, and someone should have fought for us." He left them in stunned silence, knowing the battle was just beginning. His phone buzzed with a message from his lawyer. "Paperwork ready. Judge Henderson owes you a favor. We can expedite." Money and power still had their uses, it seemed. That night, Alex stood in his empty penthouse, surveying the space through new eyes. The sterile white furniture, the untouched kitchen, the walls bare of anything personal. It was a showroom, not a home. Tomorrow, 5 boys would enter this mausoleum of wealth. Boys who had nothing but needed everything. Boys who might bring life to these rooms in the little time he had left. His phone rang, his oncologist with the latest test results. Alex let it go to voicemail. Tonight, for the first time since his diagnosis, he wasn't thinking about dying. He was thinking about living. "This isn't a prison," Alex said, standing in the penthouse foyer as 5 pairs of suspicious eyes surveyed their new surroundings. "You're free to explore." None of them moved. The oldest, Marcus, positioned himself slightly ahead of the others, a human shield against whatever disappointment might come next. "Why us?" Marcus finally asked, his voice deeper than his 16 years suggested. "What do you want?" Alex recognized the wariness, the certainty that nothing good came without a terrible price. He'd worn that same expression at Marcus's age. "I want nothing from you except that you make yourselves at home," Alex replied, knowing they wouldn't believe him. Trust was earned, not purchased. The twins, Elijah and Isaiah, were the first to break formation. At 12, they moved in perfect synchronicity, a survival mechanism developed through years of shared trauma. They communicated through glances and subtle gestures, a private language that excluded everyone else. "Is this real gold?" Elijah asked, touching a decorative bowl. "Can we sell it?" Isaiah added, without missing a beat. "It's just painted," Alex lied, watching them pocket small items when they thought he wasn't looking. He'd let them keep their security blanket of stolen trinkets, for now. Leo, the 8-year-old, hadn't spoken a word since arriving. His social worker had explained his selective mutism, a response to witnessing his mother's violent death 3 years earlier. He clutched his sketchbook like armor, dark eyes constantly assessing escape routes. When Alex showed him the art studio he'd hastily assembled, complete with professional-grade supplies, Leo's expression remained unchanged. But later, Alex found him there, drawing furiously, creating intricate scenes of monsters and heroes locked in battle. The youngest, 5-year-old Jaden, was the anomaly. Despite everything, he retained an openness that broke Alex's heart. "Are you my dad now?" Jaden asked during their first dinner, spaghetti sauce ringing his mouth. Before Alex could answer, Marcus cut in. "He's not our dad. He's just some rich guy who'll get bored with his charity project." Alex met Marcus's challenging stare. "I'm not your dad. I wouldn't presume to replace anyone's parents, but I am responsible for you now, and I take that seriously." "For how long?" Marcus demanded. "Longer than I'll be alive," Alex thought, but didn't say. By day 3, Alex's meticulously ordered world had dissolved into beautiful chaos. The twins had reprogrammed his smart home system, causing lights to flash in patterns and music to play randomly. Leo had covered one hallway wall with a mural, using permanent markers instead of the washable ones Alex had provided. Jaden had discovered that the marble floors made excellent sliding surfaces when wearing socks. And Marcus had attempted to run away twice. The second time, Alex found him at the bus terminal at 2 a.m. "How did you find me?" Marcus demanded, backpack clutched to his chest. "I put trackers in your shoes," Alex admitted. "Not my proudest moment, but I needed to know you were safe." "That's messed up." "Yes, but so is a 16-year-old alone at a bus station in the middle of the night." They sat in silence on a bench, watching the late-night travelers. "The others need you," Alex finally said, "especially Jaden. They had me before you came along. And they still do. But now they also have a chance at something more." Marcus studied him. "You're sick, aren't you? I've seen the pills. Is this some make-a-wish thing for yourself?" Alex almost smiled at the boy's perceptiveness. "Let's go home, Marcus. We can talk about my motivations tomorrow." "This isn't home," Marcus muttered, but he stood and followed Alex to the waiting car. It was progress. Small, but real. Like the protective hand Alex instinctively placed on Marcus's shoulder as they walked through the dark parking lot. And the fact that just for a moment, the boy didn't pull away. "The East Side Community Clinic isn't accustomed to billionaires," Dr. Sophia Chen said, not bothering to hide her skepticism as she reviewed the boy's files, especially ones who suddenly adopt 5 children from the system. Alex sat across from her desk, taking in the cramped office with its outdated equipment and walls plastered with children's drawings. The clinic served the neighborhood's underprivileged, a world away from the private physicians who catered to his usual circle. "I'm not here as a billionaire," he replied. "I'm here as their guardian." Sophia raised an eyebrow, her dark eyes sharp with intelligence and something else, distrust. "Mr. Westbrook, these boys have complex medical and psychological needs. This isn't like acquiring a company where you can delegate the difficult parts." "I'm aware of that, Dr. Chen." "Are you?" "Because Leo hasn't spoken in 3 years. The twins have severe attachment disorder. Marcus shows signs of PTSD, and Jaden's developmental delays require specialized attention." Alex leaned forward. "Which is why I'm here instead of sending an assistant. I need your help." She studied him, her expression softening slightly before hardening again. "The waiting list for our child psychologist is 6 months long. But I'm sure you'll find a way to jump the queue." "Actually," Alex said, "I was hoping to fund an additional position for all your patients, not just the boys." Sophia's pen stopped mid-note. "Is this how it works in your world? You throw money at problems until they disappear?" "Sometimes money solves actual problems, Dr. Chen, like understaffed clinics." Their eyes locked in silent challenge. Alex was struck by her beauty. Not the manufactured perfection he was accustomed to, but something authentic and fierce. Her lab coat couldn't hide her graceful posture, and her practical ponytail only emphasized her delicate features. For her part, Sophia noticed his pallor beneath his tan, the slight tremor in his hand that he quickly concealed. Something wasn't right with Alexander Westbrook, and it wasn't just his impulsive adoption. "Your publicity stunt made the business section," Sophia said a week later, slapping the newspaper onto the examination table where Alex sat with Jaden. The headline read, "Tech Titan's Surprising Adoption, Midlife Crisis, or Tax Strategy?" "I don't care about publicity," Alex replied, helping Jaden with his shirt buttons after the examination. "Everyone in your position cares about publicity. You seem to have me all figured out, doctor. I've seen your type before. Wealthy donors who show up with cameras, make promises, then disappear when the real work begins." Alex's jaw tightened. "You don't know me. I know that these boys will form attachments, start to heal, and then what happens when you lose interest, when they become inconvenient to your lifestyle?" "That won't happen." "It always happens," she said, her voice suddenly raw with emotion. "These children deserve consistency, not a temporary savior." Jaden looked between them, sensing the tension. "Dr. Sophie makes my ears better," he told Alex earnestly. "She has stickers." Sophia's expression softened as she turned to the boy. "That's right, Jaden, and you're my bravest patient." She awarded him a dinosaur sticker, her gentle touch contrasting with the fire she directed at Alex. He watched her interaction with Jaden, noting how naturally she connected with the child. Despite her hostility toward him, he couldn't help but admire her dedication. Later that afternoon, Sophia found Alex in the waiting room, reviewing medical information on his tablet while the twins bickered over a game. "Mr. Westbrook, a word?" She led him to a quiet corner. "Leo's test results came back. His selective mutism is complicated by an undiagnosed hearing impairment." "How serious?" "Be treatable, but it requires specialized care. I've made some calls, but the specialist has a waiting list." "I'll handle it," Alex interrupted. "Of course you will," she said with a sigh. "Must be nice to snap your fingers and make problems disappear. Would you prefer I don't use my resources to help him?" The question caught her off guard. "No, I just—" She paused, reassessing him. "Why are you really doing this?" "These boys specifically?" Something in her genuine concern broke through his defenses. "I was in foster care. Not all of us made it out okay." The admission hung between them, shifting the air. Sophia saw past the tailored suit to the boy he must have been. Determined, resilient, alone. "The specialist is Dr. Abrams at Columbia," she said, her tone softer. "Tell her I sent you." "Thank you." Their eyes met again, but differently this time, a moment of genuine connection that startled them both. "I should get back to my patients," she said quickly. "Of course." As she walked away, Alex felt an unfamiliar tightness in his chest that had nothing to do with his illness. And Sophia, despite herself, found her thoughts returning to the unexpected vulnerability she'd glimpsed in the billionaire's eyes. Neither acknowledged the spark between them, a complication neither wanted nor needed. Especially since one of them was harboring a secret that would make any future impossible. The bathroom door locked with a decisive click. Alex braced himself against the marble sink, waiting for the wave of nausea to pass. The morning's chemotherapy session had been brutal, leaving him drained and fighting to maintain his facade of normalcy. He examined his reflection. The increasing hollowness beneath his cheekbones, the yellowish tint to his skin that makeup barely concealed. 2 months left according to his latest scans. Maybe less. A knock startled him. "Alex?" Marcus's voice came through the door. "The twins broke something in the kitchen. It looks expensive." "I'll be right there," Alex called, quickly swallowing his anti-nausea medication and tucking the pill bottles into his pocket. He splashed water on his face, straightened his shoulders, and opened the door with a practiced smile. Marcus studied him with narrowed eyes. "You don't look good. Just tired." Running a global company while parenting 5 boys would exhaust anyone. The teenager didn't seem convinced, but let it drop. It was that weird glass sculpture thing, the blue one. The Chihuly? Don't worry about it. Alex placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder, a gesture that would have been rejected weeks ago but was now tolerated. Progress. In the kitchen, the twins stood frozen beside shattered blue glass, their expressions a mixture of defiance and fear. We were just looking, Elijah began. It fell by itself, Isaiah finished. Alex surveyed the deliberate destruction, their test to see if he'd react like other adults in their lives, with anger, with punishment, with rejection. It's just stuff, Alex said simply. Are either of you hurt? The twins exchanged confused glances. Let's clean it up together, Alex continued, grabbing the broom. Then maybe you can help me choose something different for that space, something you like. Later, he found Leo sitting cross-legged on his bedroom floor, drawing the broken sculpture from memory. But in his version, the pieces were reassembling themselves, floating upward to become whole again. Alex sat beside him. That's not how glass works, unfortunately. Leo didn't respond verbally, but he tore out the drawing and handed it to Alex, the first voluntary interaction he'd initiated. That night, as Alex tucked Jaden into bed, the youngest boy wrapped his arms around Alex's neck. Love you, he mumbled sleepily. The words hit Alex with physical force. He sat beside the sleeping child long after he should have left, memorizing his peaceful face. Fighting back emotions he couldn't afford to show. Your blood work is concerning, Dr. Sophia said, frowning at the lab results during the boy's monthly checkup. She'd insisted on seeing Alex privately after noticing his deteriorating condition. I'm under a doctor's care, he deflected. Clearly not a very good one. Your liver function is compromised, and these markers suggest... She stopped, medical training connecting the dots. Alex, are you ill? Focus on the boys, Dr. Chen. They're your patients. The boys are thriving. You, however, look like you're dying. The word hung between them. Alex maintained eye contact but said nothing. Sophia's expression shifted from professional concern to something more personal. How bad is it? Bad enough. And the boys don't know? No one knows. And I'd like to keep it that way. She stepped closer, her professional distance crumbling. You adopted 5 children knowing you were terminally ill? That's beyond irresponsible, it's cruel. I've made arrangements for their care. They'll want for nothing. Except you. Her voice broke slightly. They're starting to trust you, to depend on you, and you're going to disappear from their lives just like everyone else has. I'm giving them what time I have left, Alex said quietly. It's more than I was given. Something in his tone silenced her arguments. She saw not the billionaire, but the foster child who'd grown up without stability or love. How long? She finally asked. Does it matter? Their eyes locked, the air between them charged with unspoken emotions. Sophia was suddenly aware of his proximity, the subtle scent of his cologne, the intensity in his gaze that had nothing to do with his illness. It matters to me, she admitted, surprising herself with the truth of it. Alex reached out, his fingers almost touching her cheek before he caught himself and pulled back. Then, that's one more complication I never anticipated. Would you risk falling in love knowing heartbreak was inevitable? Like this video if you believe love is always worth the risk, even when time is running out. Sometimes the most powerful connections come when we least expect them, and when we have the most to lose. The call came at 2:17 a.m., jolting Alex from his fitful sleep. Mr. Westbrook, it's Eastside Elementary. There's been an incident with Leo. Alex was already pulling on clothes, adrenaline overriding his fatigue. What happened? It had some kind of panic attack during the overnight science camp. He's not physically hurt, but he's completely shut down. The school nurse can't get through to him. I'm on my way. Alex found Leo curled into a tight ball in the nurse's office, rocking slightly, eyes unfocused. The school nurse hovered nearby, clearly out of her depth. I've never seen anything like it, she whispered. The thunder from the storm triggered something. He was screaming, but now he won't respond at all. Alex knelt beside Leo, careful not to touch him. Leo, it's Alex. I'm here now. You're safe. No response. Alex made a split-second decision and called Sophia. 20 minutes later, Sophia rushed into the nurse's office, hair damp from the rain, wearing sweatpants and a Columbia medical sweatshirt. I came as fast as I could, she said, immediately assessing Leo's condition. She knelt beside Alex, who hadn't moved from his position near the boy. Leo, it's Dr. Sophia, she said softly. Can you look at me? Nothing. He's in a dissociative state, she explained to Alex. The storm likely triggered memories of his trauma. What do we do? We need to ground him, bring him back to the present. She turned to Alex. Does he have any comfort objects, anything that makes him feel safe? His sketchbook. He never goes anywhere without it. Where is it now? The nurse pointed to a backpack in the corner. Alex retrieved the sketchbook and placed it near Leo without forcing it on him. Leo, Sophia said gently. Alex brought your sketchbook. It's right here. When you're ready. For several minutes they waited in silence. Then, almost imperceptibly, Leo's eyes flickered toward the sketchbook. That's it, Sophia encouraged. It's right here. You're safe now. Slowly, Leo's hand inched toward the book. When his fingers touched it, something in his posture relaxed slightly. I think he needs to draw, Alex said. It's how he processes things. Sophia nodded and placed a pencil near the book. Leo grabbed it and began drawing frantically, jagged lines and dark shapes that reflected his inner turmoil. Keep talking to him, Sophia instructed Alex. Your voice is a safe anchor now. Alex hesitated, then began speaking softly. When I was 9, there was a storm like this. The foster home I was in had a leaky roof, and I was terrified the ceiling would collapse. No one came when I called out, so I hid under the bed until morning. As he spoke, Leo's drawing slowed, the lines becoming less chaotic. I promised myself that when I grew up, I'd have a house where the roof never leaked and no one would ever have to be afraid during storms, Alex continued, his voice steady despite the vulnerability of his words. That's why the penthouse has reinforced windows and a backup generator. Did you notice the lights never flicker even in the worst storms? Leo's pencil stilled. He looked up at Alex for the first time, really seeing him. You're safe now, Alex said simply. I promise. To both adults' astonishment, Leo nodded once. A tiny acknowledgement that broke the dissociative spell. Dawn found the 3 of them in the penthouse kitchen. Leo had finally fallen asleep on the couch, exhausted from his ordeal. Sophia sat at the island counter while Alex made coffee, moving with the deliberate care of someone fighting fatigue and pain. You were remarkable with him, Sophia said, watching Alex over the rim of her mug. I just followed your lead. No, you knew instinctively what he needed. That story about the foster home. Not my favorite childhood memory, Alex admitted. How many homes were you in? 7. Over 12 years. Some worse than others. Sophia studied him with new understanding. That's why you took them in. All 5 together? Siblings get separated in the system, even unofficial ones like these boys. I couldn't let that happen. The morning light softened his features, revealing the man beneath the billionaire facade, a man shaped by loss and determination. You could have donated to foster charities, funded system reforms, Sophia pointed out. Why make it so personal? Alex's gaze drifted to where Leo slept. Because money doesn't tuck them in at night. It doesn't tell them they're safe during storms. Something shifted between them in that moment, a barrier dissolving. Sophia saw not the arrogant CEO she'd first judged, but a man fighting his own demons while trying to save 5 boys from similar scars. I misjudged you, she admitted quietly. Most people do. It's easier that way. Their eyes met across the kitchen island, the connection between them suddenly undeniable. Alex felt a longing that had nothing to do with physical attraction and everything to do with being truly seen, for the first time in decades. Sophia felt it too, a dangerous pull toward a man who represented everything she distrusted, yet who had just revealed depths she hadn't imagined. The moment was broken by the twins thundering down the hallway, followed by Marcus carrying a sleepy Jaden. "Is Leo okay?" Marcus demanded, his protective instincts on full display. The school called and said, "He's fine," Alex assured him. "Dr. Chen helped us through a rough patch." "Sophia," she corrected gently, "I think we're past formalities." The boys gathered around Leo's sleeping form, their concern evident. Jaden placed his favorite stuffed dinosaur beside Leo. The twins positioned themselves on either side, a silent guard. Marcus checked Leo's forehead for fever, an unconsciously paternal gesture. Alex and Sophia watched this tableau, 5 damaged boys forming their own family unit, protecting each other with fierce loyalty. "They're becoming a family," Sophia whispered. "They already were," Alex replied. "They just needed a safe place to show it." As if hearing them, Marcus looked up, his eyes meeting Alex's with something new. A tentative trust that felt like the most precious gift Alex had ever received. The Eastside Community Clinic's annual fundraiser transformed the usually stark medical facility into something almost elegant. String lights hung from the ceiling, hiding the institutional tiles. Volunteers had covered examination tables with donated tables, turning them into serving stations for donated hors d'oeuvres. Alex stood near the makeshift stage, checking his watch. His speech was scheduled for 8:30, just 15 minutes away. He'd already doubled the clinic's annual fundraising goal with his own donation, but tonight wasn't about money. It was about convincing other wealthy New Yorkers to support Sophia's vision for expanded pediatric services. Nervous? Sophia appeared beside him, stunning in a simple blue dress, a stark contrast to her usual lab coat. "Public speaking is the least of my concerns," Alex replied with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. The boys seemed to be enjoying themselves. She nodded toward the corner where Marcus was deep in conversation with the clinic's IT specialist. The twins were charming elderly donors with their identical grins, while Jaden proudly showed off his dinosaur knowledge to anyone who would listen. Even Leo was comfortable, sketching portraits of guests who were delighted by his talent. "They've come so far," Alex said, pride evident in his voice. "Thanks to you. And you." Their eyes met, the connection between them stronger than ever after weeks of late-night conversations and shared moments with the boys. Alex opened his mouth to say more when the first wave hit, a searing pain that stole his breath. He gripped the edge of a nearby table, knocking over a tray of glasses. The crash drew all eyes to him. "Alex?" Sophia's voice seemed distant. He tried to straighten, to wave off concern, but his legs buckled. The room tilted sideways as he collapsed. Through the gathering darkness he heard Sophia's authoritative voice, "I need space. Someone call an ambulance." Then nothing. Consciousness returned in fragments. The antiseptic smell, the rhythmic beeping, the cool touch of Sophia's hand on his. "You're at Mount Sinai," she said when his eyes finally focused on her. "You had a hypoglycemic episode, complicated by extreme dehydration." Alex tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. "Don't talk yet." She held a cup of water with a straw to his lips, small sips. After he drank, she placed the cup aside and fixed him with a gaze that was both professional and devastatingly personal. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer," she said flatly. "Your oncologist called when they couldn't reach you. Apparently, you've been missing appointments." The secret was out. Alex closed his eyes briefly, gathering strength for the conversation he'd been avoiding. "How long have you known?" Sophia asked, her voice tight with controlled emotion. "Since before I met the boys." 3 months, they said. "That was your prognosis when you were diagnosed, which means—" "About 6 weeks left now, maybe less." Sophia stood abruptly, pacing the small hospital room. "You adopted 5 children knowing you had months to live? What were you thinking?" "I was thinking they needed someone. They needed permanence, stability, not another person who disappears from their lives. Her voice broke on the last word, anger giving way to pain. I've made arrangements. They'll be taken care of financially, and my sister— Your sister? Sophia interrupted. The one you mentioned once who lives in Australia? Who they've never met? She's flying in next week to get to know them. She's agreed to be their guardian. And you think that makes this okay? That money and a stranger with your DNA will replace what they're going to lose when they finally let themselves trust you? Tears filled her eyes. When they finally let themselves love you. The raw emotion in her voice silenced his practiced explanations. For weeks, he'd told himself he was giving the boys a better life, even if it was temporary. Now, faced with Sophia's anguish, doubt crept in. Was it selfish? He asked quietly. I thought I was helping them. It was incredibly selfish, she confirmed, but her tone had softened. She returned to his bedside, taking his hand again, but also brave and kind and complicated, just like you. They sat in silence, the weight of his mortality pressing down on them both. I didn't plan for you, Alex finally admitted. In all my careful arrangements, I never anticipated Sophia Chen. What does that mean? It means I have spent my life avoiding attachments, protecting myself from exactly this kind of pain. Then I found 5 boys who needed me, and a doctor who saw through every wall I built. His voice roughened with emotion. And now, I have to leave you all. The confession hung between them, not just an acknowledgement of his impending death, but of feelings that had grown despite every reason to guard against them. I'm scared, Sophia, he whispered, finally allowing himself the truth. Not of dying. I've made peace with that. I'm scared of leaving them. Of leaving you. Sophia's tears fell freely now. She leaned forward, pressing her forehead to their joined hands. I'm scared too, she confessed. Because despite every rational thought telling me not to, I've fallen in love with a man who's leaving. The monitor beside the bed registered Alex's quickening heartbeat. A tragicomic reminder that even in this moment of profound connection, his body was failing him. What do we do now? He asked. Sophia raised her head, determination replacing despair in her eyes. Now we fight for whatever time you have left, and we make it count. You should be resting, Sophia said, finding Alex in the penthouse kitchen at midnight, methodically organizing lunch supplies for the next day. I'll rest when I'm dead, he replied, then winced at his own dark humor. Sorry, inappropriate. Sophia moved beside him, taking the sandwich bread from his hands. Let me help. They worked in comfortable silence, assembling 5 lunches with the precision of a well-practiced routine. Peanut butter with the crusts cut off for Jaden. Extra protein for Marcus's basketball practices. The twins' identical meals with different colored napkins. Blue for Elijah, green for Isaiah. Leo's carefully arranged in sections that couldn't touch. You know all their preferences, Sophia observed. So do you. Their hands brushed as they reached for the same container, sending a current of awareness between them. Since his collapse 2 weeks ago, they'd existed in a strange limbo. His diagnosis acknowledged, but their feelings still navigating uncertain territory. I keep telling myself this is a terrible idea, Sophia said quietly, not looking at him. Getting involved with a dying man? It is a terrible idea, Alex agreed. Logically, you should run as far from me as possible. Yet here I am, making sandwiches at midnight. Alex set down the knife he was holding and turned to face her. Why are you here, Sophia? She finally met his gaze. Because I've spent my career watching people fight for more time, never knowing how much they'd get. I've seen what matters in the end. Her voice steadied with conviction. It's never about how long, it's about how deeply. Alex reached for her hand, his touch gentle but insistent. I can't offer you a future. I'm not asking for one, I'm choosing now. The simplicity of her declaration broke something open between them. Alex drew her closer, one hand cradling her face with reverence. I don't want your pity, he whispered. This isn't pity, she answered, rising on her toes to press her lips to his. The kiss was tentative at first, then transformed into something urgent and honest. an acknowledgement of time's constraints and the freedom that came with accepting them. When they finally separated, both breathless, Alex rested his forehead against hers. "I've wanted to do that since you yelled at me about my publicity stunt adoption." Sophia laughed softly. "I was wrong about so many things." "Not everything. I am dying. And it will hurt the boys." "Yes," she agreed, refusing to offer false comfort. "But not as much as never having known you at all." The days that followed took on a dreamlike quality. Ordinary moments, made extraordinary by their impermanence. They took the boys to Central Park on a perfect autumn day, spreading blankets beneath golden trees. Alex taught Marcus the finer points of investment strategy while they tossed a football. Sophia helped the twins build elaborate leaf fortresses, their laughter echoing across the lawn. Leo sat between Alex and Sophia, drawing their portrait with unexpected tenderness. Jaden fell asleep against Alex's chest, secure in the knowledge he was protected. To anyone passing by, they looked like any other family enjoying the weekend. Only they knew the precious countdown running beneath their normalcy. "They're asleep," Alex said, joining Sophia on the penthouse terrace. The city lights stretched before them, a constellation of human persistence. "All five? Even the twins? I caught them trying to reprogram my home security system. Again. They're brilliant but exhausting." Sophia laughed, making room for him on the lounge chair. He settled beside her, his body fitting perfectly against hers despite his increasing frailty. His good days were becoming fewer, but he fought to make each one count. "I never expected this," he admitted, his voice soft against her hair. "What?" "Terminal illness? Family?" The word held wonder in his mouth. "I spent decades building wealth, thinking it would fill the emptiness. Then 5 boys and a stubborn doctor showed me what I was really missing." Sophia turned in his arms to face him. "You've given them something priceless, Alex. A sense of belonging, of being chosen. They gave me the same gift." His fingers traced the curve of her cheek. "And so did you." Under the vast night sky, they shared the kind of kiss that acknowledged mortality while defying it. Deep, unhurried, present. Tomorrow would bring more medical appointments, more difficult conversations with the boys, more painful reminders of what they would lose. But tonight, in this moment, time expanded to hold their love, not diminished by its brevity, but made more precious because of it. "Some people spend decades together without ever truly seeing each other," Sophia whispered against his lips. "We've had weeks of really seeing, of really knowing. Quality over quantity," Alex murmured, pulling her closer. "Exactly." As the city hummed below them, they created their own definition of forever. Not measured in years, but in the depth of connection that would outlast his final heartbeat. The morning Alex couldn't get out of bed marked the beginning of the end. "I just need a minute," he insisted, as Sophia checked his vitals, her doctor's training battling with her lover's fear. "The oxygen saturation is dropping," she said quietly. "We need to consider hospice care." "Not yet." His voice, though weakened, held the same determination that had built his empire. "The boys have a science fair tomorrow. Jaden's been practicing his dinosaur presentation all week." Sophia sat beside him, taking his increasingly thin hand in hers. "Alex, we need to tell them." They sense something's wrong. Before he could respond, the bedroom door creaked open. Marcus stood in the doorway, his teenage attempt at stoicism crumbling as he took in the scene. "You're dying, aren't you?" he asked bluntly. The directness of the question left no room for gentle evasions. Alex met the boy's gaze and nodded once. "How long have you known?" Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "Since before I met you." Understanding dawned on Marcus's face, followed by anger, then a deeper hurt. "You took us in knowing you were going to die. Why would you do that to us?" "Marcus," Sophia began, but Alex squeezed her hand. "It's a fair question," he said. "I took you in because I saw myself in you, all of you. I thought I could give you a better start than I had, even if it was brief. Though we were what? Your deathbed charity project? No. Alex struggled to sit up, his determination momentarily overriding his weakness. You were the family I never allowed myself to have. My greatest regret is not finding you sooner. The raw honesty silenced Marcus's anger. He stood frozen, caught between the instinct to run and the deeper need to stay. Does everyone else know? He finally asked. Only Sophia. Marcus nodded, processing. I'll tell the others. Let me... Alex started. No, Marcus interrupted with sudden authority. You rest. I'll handle it. The role reversal was subtle but unmistakable, the child stepping up to protect the parent. The boys' reactions reflected their personalities and coping mechanisms. The twins responded with frantic energy, researching experimental treatments online and creating elaborate charts of vitamin regimens. We found a doctor in Switzerland, Elijah announced, thrusting a printout at Sophia. And a clinical trial in Japan, Isaiah added. Sophia gently explained the reality of Alex's condition, helping them channel their energy into more achievable goals. Leo retreated into silence again, but his drawings told the story of his processing, page after page of Alex surrounded by protective circles, as if his art could create a shield against death. Jaden, too young to fully comprehend mortality, asked simple questions that cut to the heart. Does dying hurt? And, will you still watch me from heaven? But it was Marcus who surprised them all, stepping into a leadership role with quiet strength. He organized the younger boys, maintained routines, and spent hours beside Alex's bed, absorbing business knowledge and family stories like a sponge soaking up precious water before drought. You don't have to do this, Alex protested weakly as Marcus helped him to the bathroom. Yeah, I do, the teenager replied matter-of-factly. You'd do it for me. Later, the twins appeared with a precisely timed medication schedule they'd created, color-coded and programmed with alerts. We hacked your smart home system, Isaiah explained without apology. Now we'll remind everyone when you need medicine, Elijah added. Leo silently placed cool compresses on Alex's forehead during fever spikes, his small hands steady and sure. Even Jaden contributed, climbing carefully onto the bed to read Alex the dinosaur books that had once been read to him. You rest your eyes, he instructed seriously. I know all the words now. Sophia watched these interactions with a heart simultaneously breaking and swelling with pride. The boys weren't just accepting Alex's care anymore. They were returning it with interest. One evening, as pain medications made Alex drowsy, he confessed his fear to Sophia. I wanted to save them, he whispered. But they're the ones saving me. That's what family does, she replied, adjusting his oxygen. They show up, they stay. Will you stay with them? After. The question held his deepest anxiety. Sophia kissed his forehead, her tears falling onto his skin. We'll stay together, all of us, I promise. For the first time since his diagnosis, Alex felt something like peace. His body was failing, but the family he'd created was growing stronger, forged in the crucible of impending loss, but determined to transform grief into love. The hospital garden transformed under Sophia's direction. Fairy lights woven through potted trees, white chairs arranged in a small semicircle, flowers everywhere. Not the lavish wedding either of them might have once imagined, but perfect in its simplicity and urgency. Alex sat in a wheelchair at the garden center, oxygen tubes discreetly arranged, his suit hanging loosely on his diminished frame. Yet his eyes were clear and focused, watching as Sophia walked toward him in a simple ivory dress, her hair adorned with small white flowers. The boys formed their honor guard, Marcus solemn in his role as best man, the twins as ring-bearers, Leo clutching the handmade programs he'd illustrated for each guest, and Jaden scattering rose petals with enthusiastic abandon. We are gathered here today, the chaplain began, to witness the union of two souls who have chosen love despite its challenges. Alex reached for Sophia's hand as she took her place beside him. You don't have to do this, he whispered. "I've never been more certain of anything," she replied. "Your vows were brief but powerful, promises not of forever, but of complete presence for whatever time remained." When Alex's voice faltered from weakness, Marcus stepped forward, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder and helping him finish his words. "The rings, please," the chaplain requested. The twins presented the simple bands with uncharacteristic solemnity. "With this ring," Alex said, his hand trembling slightly as he placed the band on Sophia's finger, "I give you my heart, completely and without reservation, for all my remaining days." "With this ring," Sophia responded, sliding the matching band onto his thin finger, "I promise to love you fully in the time we have, and to carry that love forward in how I care for our family. By the power vested in me," the chaplain concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Their kiss was gentle, bittersweet, perfect, sealing a commitment that transcended conventional timelines. As the small gathering of friends applauded, Jaden tugged at Alex's sleeve. "Are you my dad now?" he asked, the question he'd first posed months ago. Alex lifted the boy onto his lap, ignoring the pain the movement caused. "Yes," he said simply, "and I always will be, even when you can't see me anymore." In the days that followed, Alex divided his remaining energy between finalizing arrangements and creating memories with each family member. With Marcus, he spent hours reviewing the foundation he'd established, the Westbrook Family Trust, dedicated to keeping siblings together in the foster system and providing educational opportunities for disadvantaged youth. "You'll have a seat on the board when you turn 18, Alex explained, showing Marcus the legal documents. "Your voice matters in how this legacy continues." "I won't let you down," Marcus promised, the man he was becoming visible beneath the teenage exterior. "You never could." For the twins, Alex created a technology lab in what had been his home office, equipped with the latest equipment and ethical hacking programs. "Channel those brilliant minds toward helping people," he advised as they explored their new domain. "The world needs your creativity." "We'll build something amazing," Elijah vowed. "Something that lasts," Isaiah added. Leo received a private art studio and a scholarship to the city's most prestigious art program. But more meaningful was the letter Alex wrote him, acknowledging his silence not as a deficit, but as another form of communication. "Your art speaks volumes," Alex told him, watching the boy sketch his portrait one final time. "Never stop showing the world how you see it." Leo responded by presenting Alex with a bound collection of drawings, their family's story illustrated from his perspective, ending not with death but with a scene of all of them together beneath a starry sky. For Jaden, Alex recorded himself reading every book in the boys' collection, his voice preserved for bedtimes he wouldn't physically attend. He also established a college fund and arranged for annual trips to dinosaur excavation sites. "Will you remember me when I'm big?" Jaden asked during their final bedtime story. "I'll remember you always," Alex promised. "And you'll remember me too, in the ways that matter." With Sophia, the moments were quieter, deeper, whispered plans for the boys' futures, promises exchanged, love expressed in the gentle way she adjusted his medications and the tender way he traced the contours of her face, memorizing her. "I need you to know," he told her one evening as they watched the sunset from his hospital room, "that these months have been worth everything. Every pain, every difficult moment. I would choose this again. I would choose you. And the boys every time." "So would I," she whispered, her head on his shoulder. "Every time." On his final night, Alex gathered enough strength to have the boys brought to his room. They surrounded his bed, not in grief, but in celebration of the family they had become. "Remember," he told them, his voice barely audible, "family isn't about blood or time. It's about who stays when staying is hardest." As his breathing slowed, Marcus took one hand, Sophia the other. The twins stood at the foot of the bed, unusually still. Leo pressed close to Sophia's side. Jaden climbed carefully onto the bed, nestling against Alex's side. "We're staying," Marcus promised for all of them. "We're right here." Alex's final smile was one of complete peace, a man who had found, in his last chapter, the love that had eluded him his entire life. 1 year later, Central Park bloomed with spring's renewal. Beneath the cherry tree they'd planted in Alex's memory, Sophia spread a picnic blanket while the boys arranged their offerings around the small bronze plaque embedded in the ground. "He would have hated a traditional headstone," Marcus commented, now 17 and inches taller, his voice deeper but still carrying echoes of the guarded boy he'd been. "Too conventional." "Too depressing," agreed Elijah, setting up a small solar-powered device he and Isaiah had invented, a light that would illuminate the plaque after dark. "Too boring," Isaiah added, placing their latest robotics competition trophy beside the plaque. "First place, just like we promised him." Leo, who now spoke in quiet but complete sentences with his therapist and family, carefully positioned his newest artwork, a portrait of Alex laughing, captured from memory with remarkable detail. The selective mutism remained with strangers, but within their family circle his voice had found its place. Jaden, now 6 and missing his front teeth, proudly displayed his first-grade science project, a dinosaur diorama that had won school recognition. "Dad would say it's awesome," he declared with absolute certainty, the word "dad" falling naturally from his lips. Sophia watched them with a full heart, one hand resting unconsciously on her slightly rounded belly. She hadn't told them yet about the miracle growing inside her, a possibility the doctors had deemed unlikely given her medical history, yet here it was, life asserting itself in the wake of loss. "It's been exactly 1 year," she said as they settled on the blanket. "I thought we could each share something about how we've carried Alex forward." Marcus went first, his natural leadership now tempered with compassion. "I got accepted to Columbia's business program," he announced, "and the foundation has placed 27 sibling groups in homes that keep them together." The twins exchanged a telepathic glance. "We developed an app that helps foster kids stay connected with siblings," Elijah said. "It's being implemented in 3 states already," Isaiah added proudly. Leo silently handed Sophia a folded paper. She opened it to find a letter from the prestigious Westward Art Academy offering him a full scholarship. His small smile spoke volumes. "I told my class about my dad during show and tell," Jaden contributed, "about how he saved us even though he was sick. My teacher cried." Sophia wiped away her own tears, overwhelmed by how each boy carried pieces of Alex forward. His business acumen in Marcus, his innovative thinking in the twins, his quiet depth in Leo, his joyful enthusiasm in Jaden. "I have something to share too," she said, taking a deep breath. She guided Marcus's hand to her stomach. "Your father left us one more gift." Understanding dawned on their faces, followed by expressions of wonder, joy, and a touch of healing sadness. "A baby brother or sister?" Jaden asked, eyes wide. "Yes," Sophia confirmed. "Due in autumn." Alex knew. Marcus said with sudden certainty. Somehow, he knew. As the spring breeze rustled the cherry blossoms above them, sending pale pink petals drifting around their small family circle, Sophia felt Alex's presence, not in grief, but in the love that continued to grow and transform. "He told me once that love doesn't end," she shared, looking at each of their faces. "It just changes form." The boys nodded, understanding a truth beyond their years, that some bonds transcend even death, continuing to shape and guide long after physical presence ends. This story reminds us that true love isn't measured in time but in depth. Subscribe for more stories that will touch your heart and remind you of love's transformative power, because sometimes the most profound connections come when we least expect them and from the most unexpected sources.